It started with 6 words that sliced through the crisp mountain air, sharper than the autumn wind rustling the pines. "This is no longer your property, Mr. Caldwell." That was Karen, the Oak Ridge Homeowners Association president, standing squarely in my gravel driveway, wielding a stack of papers like a scepter, and wearing a floral muumuu so bright it looked like a flamingo had crashed into a pine tree. She smirked, confident this was the end. The paper in her hand, a foreclosure notice for $75,000 in absurd fines, was supposed to be her victory. My land, my home, the place my grandfather and I built with our own hands. To Karen, it was checkmate. But what she didn't realize was that she'd just started a war, and she'd picked the wrong man to fight it. 20 years in the Army Corps of Engineers will teach anyone how to read terrain, physical or legal, and how to plan for the long haul. So as Karen delivered her ultimatum, her voice echoing through the pines, there was something almost funny about her certainty. This, she believed, was the final blow. Most people look at stories like this, some overreaching HOA, a handful of trumped-up violations, a lone homeowner fighting back, and figure the ending is inevitable. Pick your battles, they'll say. You can't beat the system. But the truth is, sometimes the system isn't as strong as it looks. Sometimes a single, well-placed truth can topple a whole rotten structure. And this story, it's not just about a fight over a fine, it's about how a community woke up and a bully finally fell. How did it start? Not with a bang, but with a letter, a plain beige envelope, cheap perfume, and the unmistakable whiff of indignation. The subject: the color of my cabin. Not just any color, but the exact shade of cedar stain my grandfather and I chose 25 years ago. It meant something to us. The cabin, built with timber from my own 10 acres, was our sanctuary, a monument to hard work and family. Long before Oak Ridge Estates and its high-end homes, before the paved roads and the covenants, this was my land. I was here before all of them, surrounded by nothing but deer and the occasional bear. Then, of course, came development, new homes, new neighbors, and inevitably the HOA. I'd been grandfathered and my property exempt from the landscaping rules and paint swatches, owing only a small fee for road maintenance. For years, everything was fine. The board was full of reasonable people who respected the arrangement. And then Karen showed up. Karen wanted everything uniform, taupe beige, and boring. The first letter from her office arrived about the wood stain. Not an approved color, 30 days to comply, $100 fine. The letter had that passive-aggressive tone only HOA notices can manage. I responded with documentation, my deed, and the original HOA agreements highlighting my exemption. It should have ended there. Should have ended. It didn't. Karen's response: double the fine, add an administrative fee, and claim that anyone using Oak Ridge roads had to obey all the rules. It was a lie easily disproven, but that didn't matter. She wasn't looking for the truth. She wanted obedience. Experience in the military teaches a person to document everything, so that's what happened next. Every letter, every notice, every fine printed, sorted, and filed. It wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. This wasn't going to end with a letter. Soon another violation, this time for a bird feeder hand-painted by my daughter. According to Karen, it was an unapproved yard ornament. Another fine, another fee. The charges ballooned: demand, letter fees, legal review fees, community harmony disruption fees. The stack of paperwork grew. So did the cost. What started as $100 was now thousands. Each time responses went out by certified mail, including all proof of my exemption. Karen signed for everyone and ignored them all, just as she ignored the rules she claimed to enforce. Watching her circle the neighborhood in her golf cart searching for new infractions, the truth became clear. This was never about bird feeders or paint. It was about control. To her, my cabin was the last unconquered territory. But a paper bully's power only goes so far. Logic and reason had no effect, so it was time for reconnaissance. Every HOA bylaw, every financial statement, every board meeting minute collected and spread across my dining table. Inconsistencies stood out fast, fines issued with no warning, secret meetings, phantom legal expenses funneled to shell companies. Karen had built her little empire on violations of both rules and basic decency. Neighbors started sharing their stories. Mr. Garcia got a $500 fine for leaving his trash cans out while his wife was sick. Helen, tending her rose bushes, whispered about her gnome collection, cited for lowering the community aesthetic. Her late husband gave her those gnomes, one for every grandkid. She looked over her shoulder when she talked about them, as if Karen might jump out of the azaleas at any moment. This wasn't enforcement, this was extortion. Documenting those stories was the turning point. It wasn't just me anymore. Karen had weaponized the HOA, targeting the vulnerable and the busy, anyone who couldn't or wouldn't fight back. But she had overplayed her hand with that foreclosure notice. Now the community was ready to listen. When that official notice of foreclosure landed, $75,000 owed auction in 60 days, it felt less like a threat and more like an opportunity. Time to move from defense to offense. The best part: the secret weapon had been hiding in plain sight. Before Oak Ridge Estates existed, I'd founded Northwood Title and Escrow, a company that now insured every title in the subdivision. When the developer needed a title company for all 200 lots, my company got the contract. In a rush to conquer my land, Karen had forgotten who held the keys. So the strategy came together with Marcus Thorne, an old Army buddy and real estate lawyer who didn't rattle easily. He saw it right away. Karen had broken open meeting laws, ignored exemptions, padded expenses, and created a paper trail of fraud. "We can win," Marcus said, "but if you want to take down the whole machine, you'll need leverage." That's where Northwood Title came in. Karen's illegal foreclosure attempt had just clouded the titles of every home in Oak Ridge Estates, including those owned by her most loyal supporters. The next step was gathering allies. Discreet invitations went out to Helen, Mr. Garcia, and a handful of others who'd been burned by Karen's reign. The meeting was held in my workshop, neutral ground, the smell of sawdust and oil making it feel honest. One by one, neighbors shared their stories. Mr. Garcia's trash can fined, Helen's heartbreak over her gnomes, a dad whose kid was scared to play basketball. Fear and anger gave way to something else: resolve. The Oak Ridge Concerned Homeowners Committee was born. Everyone documented their grievances, and Marcus drafted a legal records request that would take a team of accountants weeks to fulfill. All contracts, minutes, invoices, and decisions, every scrap of paper. If the board complied, they'd expose Karen. If they didn't, they'd break the law. Meanwhile, Garcia put his tech skills to work, launching a website where every insane violation was cataloged. Helen's gnome fine, my foreclosure, the basketball hoop letter. A Facebook group started. People found out they weren't alone. The press got involved, and local reporter Sarah Jenkins aired a story that pulled no punches. Karen's face, tight and furious, appeared on every screen in town. Now board members started calling not to threaten, but to beg. Their own refinances and home sales stalled. Northwood Title had frozen the market. Without clear titles, nothing could close. Karen had finally hit people where it hurt their wallets. She called an emergency meeting, hoping to rally support and paint me as the villain. But the room was packed, neighbors shoulder to shoulder, fed up. She railed against lies and sabotage, blaming me for everything. When the crowd started shouting questions: "What about the gnomes, Karen? Why are you hiding the records?" she lost control. The recall vote happened right there. She was out. In 15 minutes, every bogus fine, every illegal fee was wiped away. The books were opened. What emerged was worse than anyone guessed: embezzlement, shell companies, fraud. The file went straight to the DA. With Karen gone, a new board, myself, Mr. Garcia, and others, cleaned house. Bylaws were rewritten, transparency restored, and the cloud on the titles lifted. People could sell, refinance, and live without fear. Helen's gnomes returned to her garden. Mr. Garcia's kids played basketball again. Sitting here now, the late sun painting the porch golden, the same cedar stain my grandfather and I chose, still gleaming the bird feeder my daughter made hanging from a sturdy oak. There's finally peace. And the lesson: sometimes justice is a slow build. It's not about yelling louder, but about being smarter, patient, and using the system the right way. You don't win by force, you win by turning your opponent's own arrogance against them. Maybe the real question is, where is the line between rules and tyranny, between order and oppression? When does enforcing the rules become an abuse of power? There's probably a Karen in every town, every neighborhood, maybe even inside all of us if we're not careful. So what do you think? Have you ever had to fight back against a bully? Or found yourself caught in a system that seemed impossible to beat? Where's the line between what's right and what's just following the rules? I'd love to hear your story, your take. Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about what real justice means and how communities can come together when it counts.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video. Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.